Today I want to talk about the cost of freedom. Um, the cost of freedom, and I'm not talking about religious or political or I'm not talking about liberty in America. All right, so everybody take a breath. Um, this is not going to get political. I'm talking about the cost of freedom as it's related to uh, our character, our acting out, our acting in, our medicating. Um, we're all here because we are trying to get free of something. We want to live a life uh, free, free of sin, free of addiction, free of lying, free of intimacy aversion. Um, we're all here because we have experienced the impact of the bondage of those things. So husband or wife, you're here because you've experienced the impact of the bondage of those things. And so I want to talk about this idea of the cost of freedom. Freedom is um, uh, a beautiful concept, and sometimes we forget how costly freedom really is, like what it really takes to live free. um, because the reality is freedom is not free. Uh, freedom comes at a cost. So, um, so I got a little bit of a fill in the blank here. Um, I read this quote recently that I felt like was just very applicable to what we talk about in here. Um, uh, Now I'm forgetting who it came from, but it was on a book related to the purpose of work, every good endeavor. Um, he started talking about freedom in work, um, and uh, this just like jumped off. I didn't read it; I listened to it, so it jumped into my ears, I guess. Um, that freedom is not the absence of restriction or absence of constraint. Freedom is not the absence of constraint. Freedom is finding the right constraint. Finding the right constraints that fit with the reality of your nature and current character. Freedom is not the absence of constraints, it's finding the right constraints that fit with the reality of your nature and current character. I adapted it a little bit. So if you go look this up and you're like, he misquoted um, whoever the author is, I can't remember him for the life of me. Um, he misquoted him. I'm adapting it a little bit to fit what we're talking about here. Um, but it just jumped off the page at me because it feels so applicable to. And I started thinking about it in terms of sexual acting out, right? Um, freedom is not the absence of restraint. It's not living my life totally without boundaries, and that's freedom. That's real freedom. It's actually not. It's more akin to anarchy. Um, freedom is finding what my boundaries need to be so that I can live the most free life within that boundaried space based on my nature and my character. um, so, uh, so let's talk a little bit about just these definitions. So he uses the illustration of a fish, Um, a fish is not more free without constraint. If you take a fish out of water on land, we would all agree that that fish is less free. It's less free. So a fish is not it's not meant to live on land. It's dangerous. It doesn't work. It's not designed to be in that space. It doesn't thrive outside of the water, but in the water, in a confined area that fits within its nature, a fish is the most free it can be, right? Um, and uh, so we need to recognize, like, when we're talking about living in freedom, freedom is going to require us to have boundaries. Freedom is going to require us to restrain ourselves, to constrain ourselves, and to restrict ourselves from certain things. If that's what we're really wanting, is to live the most free life, to live into the freedom that Jesus offers us through the gospel, um, we have to recognize, like, there are things I have to say no to. There are things that I can't do. There are places that I can't go. I have to find what my restraints are. So the first kind of point here is that freedom requires boundaries. All right, I'm gonna take some rabbit trails on this one, you guys, because if you're in this room and it's likely that you have had some conflict, some friction around boundaries, right? Her boundaries, his boundaries. What are the right boundaries? Um, a lot of folks will experience tension and friction around the conversation around boundaries. Um, and and what I want to highlight here is, us as husbands we can help us. Kate and I can navigate those waters a little more smoothly when I am accepting this idea that freedom is going to require me to have my own boundaries. I can't just think that I am going to uh, set my will, uh, and not act out. That I can be on social media. I can go to that part of town. I can yuck it up at a party with men or women or whatever, because I'm just determined that I'm free. I'm accepting that I'm free, and I don't need to have boundaries because I'm living in freedom. I would say that's foolish. That's foolish. You're like the fish saying, I can be on land, I can be on sea, I can be in outer space. Like, I'm determined to live in the freedom that God has given me. That would be foolish. So if we are experiencing friction around boundaries, and we're pushing against our wives, insisting that we have better boundaries with friends, better boundaries with social media, better boundaries with work, better boundaries with food. If we're pushing against that, it might be likely that we are disconnected from the reality that, uh, or maybe we're kind of accepting this misnomer that freedom is the absence of boundaries. It's not. Freedom is not the absence of boundaries. All right. Um, so we can kind of, as husbands, we can take a lot of that friction and tension out of play by just going, like, yeah, I need boundaries. I need boundaries because freedom is going to cost me something. It's going to cost me something. And and we don't want to plant our flag we don't want to plant our flag down and go, this is the hill that I'm going to die on. I am going to have social media. She's not going to tell me what to do. If that's where you're at, I'd say you probably need to check your heart. Because if you are feeling like you don't need to have boundaries around things like social media, then you might be accepting this misnomer or this false truth that freedom is the absence of boundaries. If I sound a little preachy, it's because I've been mulling this over for a while now, and I'm maybe on a bit of a soapbox. So bear with me, and I ask you to just be open-minded, open-hearted about it. If freedom is not the absence of constraint, then freedom is finding the right constraints that fit with reality. Finding the right constraints, and the right constraints for you. There's no official list of boundaries. Here are the things that you definitely shouldn't do. I think there's a list. I think there's a short list. But if I was to make that list and say you need to abide by these specific boundaries, it's possible that I could be operating in pride and arrogance, and that I am not open to the idea that somebody else could have a healthy relationship with social media. I'm showing you my hand there because if I made the list, that would be on it. And it's kind of like how our parents used to say, nothing good happens after midnight. Nothing good happens on Instagram. For me, anyway. Like, that's just not a place that I can be. It's that is one of those restrictions that fits with my reality. I'm like, I'm less free when I'm on social media. I'm less free. My mind is occupied. It's preoccupied by envy, by disappointment, by temptation. I'm a less free version of myself when I'm on social media. So for me, that fits in with the reality of my nature and my current character. My nature is that I get really into whatever I'm doing. I get hyper focused, and I have a really hard time kind of keeping things balanced. This is a silly illustration of that, but we got my daughter a Rubik's Cube for Christmas, and I was like, I'm going to solve this thing. Not realizing how arrogant that was because I don't know any of the like algorithms that you actually need to solve a Rubik's Cube. And I just thought, I'm going to figure it out. And I got really into it to the point where I was distracted from my family. I wasn't using time wisely. I was, could have been, I don't know, could have been catching up on sleep. Instead, I'm like fiddling with you. So I had to, this is silly, but I had to put a boundary in place for myself. I was like, you know what? I can't do this Rubik's Cube thing anymore because the reality of my nature and character is I can't handle getting that into something. That to me feels a little more nature versus character, but I'm kind of weighing both of those there. So for you, if you're going, what are the boundaries that I should have? We're looking at what are those right restraints that fit with the reality of my nature and character. Nature is understanding your disposition. What are you predisposed to? If you're type A and you're really task oriented, you got to make sure that you are looking at restraints that could keep you from getting too focused on the task, too focused on the outcome. Um, so if you're, a super creative person and you're kind of just your brain's all over the place, that would be a nature thing. That would be your predisposition, your personality. There might be certain boundaries that you need to put in place, um, that that restrict that kind of keep that in check. That you don't just go off into, I don't know, some other world in your head where you're then neglecting other responsibilities. Um, so I had a conversation with somebody about researching things, just kind of having an idea and being like, like, how much do killer whales eat in a day? And you kind of get into that research hole and you get really hyper fixated on like, man, how fascinating are killer whales? And then, all of a sudden 45 minutes has gone by and you got all this knowledge about killer whales. Like that's nature. That's a God-given curiosity about the way the world works. And that's a good thing. Could also be character. Okay. Maybe I don't have enough self-control to recognize when I am wasting time or not utilizing my time widely. And so putting a restraint on that, some kind of boundary, is going to be it's going to be important so that you can live more freely. You can live more into the freedom that God has given you, but you got to recognize there's a boundary that you have to live within there. You're not more free if you allow yourself to just research um, every idea that comes into your head. You're actually less free, and living without a boundary is costing you. It's costing you time. It's costing you energy. It's costing you capacity. It's costing you relational restoration. It's potentially costing you character growth. All right, so for you, when you're considering, okay, what are those constraints? What are the right constraints for me? We're looking at nature, and we're looking at character. So I would argue our nature doesn't change, meaning like our personality doesn't change. We can grow in certain areas like strengths and weaknesses. We can cultivate uh, gifts that God has given us. Um, but for the most part, our personality is going to stay pretty steady. It's going to be the same. There are healthy versions of personalities and unhealthy versions of personalities, and if you maybe want to get into that research hole, you can look into things like the Myers-Briggs or the Enneagram. But our personality it's gonna stay pretty level. The thing I want to highlight here is character, my current character. So I've had people ask, well, when can I when can we start to pull some of these boundaries? When can we start to pull some of these boundaries? They got all these boundaries in place around um, uh, social media, being on devices, and sometimes the conversation is these boundaries don't really make sense anymore, and so there is a humility and curiosity about what does it look like to shift the plan. Um, Oftentimes when I hear people talk about boundaries and when the boundaries can change, it's more of a conversation about a husband wanting his rights back. Well, I'm tired of having to leave my phone outside of the bathroom. That's inconvenient for me. And I haven't acted out in 3 years. And so what gives? How come, why is this still a big deal? When is that boundary going to come down? So even me describing it that way, you can hear the heart behind that. it's not a heart of wanting to be safe and protect and willing to sacrifice for the sake of freedom and safety and security. It is, I have my rights, and this is making my life hard. And so when is she gonna um, let up? um, so if you're in that space, if you're in that space, uh, this is an opportunity for you to check yourself and go, how do I feel about the boundaries that we have in place? Do I feel resentful about them? Do I feel like my rights are being impin- uh, impeded, infringed upon? Um, if it's a rights thing, and if I'm feeling if there's control involved there, then yeah, I think that that can give you an idea into where you're at in terms of your heart posture, and um, it probably needs to be more uh, wrestling with that, just kind of reconciling where's my heart at? Is it for redemption, or am I just trying to get back to status quo or normal, or where things are not so hard anymore? Um, all right, so getting back to character. So uh, when I'm thinking about my current character, there are seasons where my character has been eroded. Um, Seasons where my character has been eroded, and I see it in my patience and my kindness and my gentleness and my lack of empathy. Um, if and my lack of discipline, my lack of responsibility. If I'm looking at my character and I'm trying to evaluate where's my current character, and I'm seeing like a lot of holes and a lot of, and it's kind of thin and not very solid, then in order for me to be more free, I probably need to restrict myself a little more. Um, if I'm going, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Like my character should be growing, not regressing. It should be growing in character, not regressing in character. Um, then it might be an opportunity for me to reevaluate what my boundaries are. Um, because if I reconcile that my character is regressing, that's not a time where I want to start to pull the safeguards. That's not a time where I want to go, yeah, like I can take my phone in the bathroom now, or I can be on social media now. I'm really putting myself at risk because my character is what allows me, in part, it's what allows me to live um, with less boundaries. It's like the boundary marker gets kind of expanded. Um, take take kids for an example. Um, if you as the parent send your kid into the backyard and you know that there's a fence, you know that they are safe within the boundaries of the backyard, and you know that they're going to be more alive, they're going to be more free, they have more opportunity to flourish. If you take the fence away and you say you can go play wherever you want, that doesn't make sense because a child is going to feel more anxiety, more fear, more uncertainty. There's less security, and they are going to be less free to explore their imagination and live freely. As they grow up, though, as they grow up, you as the parent, you give more freedom, right? You take away more restrictions because, and that's related to their nature and their character. Uh, you're going, okay, they're becoming more responsible, um, and actually their character is growing. They're taking responsibility for themselves. They are um, uh, taking ownership for things that they've done. they do come home on time when I tell them to. And you expand the boundary. Now it's like, okay, you can ride your bike around the neighborhood. And then that becomes, yeah, you can ride your bike further out, not just our neighborhood, but you can ride it to the next neighborhood. And then as they get older and they develop more character, um, we expand the boundary. Right? That's imperfect. That's an imperfect analogy because some of you guys might be going like, I'm trying to restrict my teenager, and you know, it's an imperfect analogy, but you see where I'm going there. That our character, as our character grows, we can expand the boundary and we can live more free in this area, but only because we are more responsible to live free in that area. Uh, I think it's obvious for a lot of us. Like, yeah, social media is not that's not a healthy place for me to be as somebody who struggles with sexual integrity. Um, but sports can be it can kind of get a pass. It's like, oh, come on, like, but but we got to look at our nature and our character and the reality of where we're at and go, is that something that is giving me life, that I'm living in freedom around, or is it actually restricting freedom and actually stealing life from me? As adults, when we restrict ourselves and we don't put the onus of restriction on someone else, like our wives, or even guys in our group, like even guys that we're doing life with, when we put the onus of responsibility on ourselves and we go, I want to have good, healthy boundaries. Um, Even erring on the side of too much restriction, I think is better because then we're not resenting the person that we are, that's controlling us. I'm putting that in air quotes for those of you who are listening and not watching. Um, we kind of take that out of play. We take the resentment piece out of play and we go, no, this is my choice. I'm the one choosing not to watch the game. Um, I'm the one saying, yeah, that's not healthy for me. That's not actually life giving for me. There's some disappointment there. Um, I'm with you. I didn't watch the game either, and there's a part of me going, come on. Actually, check the score one time. I wanted to know when the game was going to end, and I was like, but what is the score? That was me kind of bumping up against the boundary and feeling the cost of what I was restricting myself from. Um, but that's not on Kate, and uh, that's not on my guys that I talk to about this stuff. That's on me, and I got to own that. And when I own it, um, I take all the resentment stuff out of play. I'm not sitting there going, she's controlling me. She won't let me watch. She doesn't want me to have any fun. Why can't she just lighten up? When are we going to get to the point where we can bring these boundaries down? I'm taking the responsibility there. We as adults do that, and then we own it. I think it's worth quoting again. Freedom is not the absence of constraints. It's finding the right constraints that fit with the reality of your nature and character. Um, and I could add like, and your current circumstance. Maybe you feel like, no, my nature and character is such that I I can bring my phone into the bathroom. Well, maybe your current circumstance doesn't, but that's just not going to be the best thing for the two of you, the integrated two of you, um, and that's okay. All right, so I'm gonna erase this, and y'all, we're gonna name some of the cost. Um, if I want to live more free, it's gonna cost me things like comfort. It's gonna cost me comfort. Um, I want to be comfortable. I really like comfort. Um, but when I'm making that something that is high on my values list, and I feel like I have to have comfort, um, then oftentimes I'm neglecting things like discipline. Um, I am I'm allowing myself to kind of get into this medicating kind of space or the acting in kind of space because it's uncomfortable to engage things that I feel failure around. And so my propensity is to avoid those things. I don't really want to deal with that right now. I want to be comfortable. I don't want to feel uncomfortable. I want to be comfortable. And so I'll act in and I'll avoid. So in order for me to but I want to highlight that actually restrains my freedom, because when I'm avoiding that thing, now it's occupying space in my mind, and I'm distracted and I'm not present to whatever it is that I'm doing. So I have to be willing to get uncomfortable. The cost of freedom for me involves comfort. I have to be willing to pay the cost there. Um, Autonomy. Um, says autonomy. I'm not sure if I spelled it right. Autonomy. Um, and related to that is like autonomy and independence. Autonomy and independence. Uh, I grew up in a household where there was a lot of autonomy and independence that was a high value in our family, mostly because uh, my parents had so many kids that they couldn't keep us all. They couldn't do everything for us, so they wanted to instill in us autonomy and independence. Um, for me to live in freedom, especially within the context of marriage, I have to recognize, like, I have to give up my autonomy. I have to give up my independence. Um, I'm not uh, I'm not a man on an island. I'm not a lone ranger. I'm not a lone wolf. Um, I need other people, and I need other people to check me and speak into my life. Uh, I don't want to be autonomous and too individualistic. Um, because when I do that, if I'm the one running my life, if I'm the only one running my life, then I would argue I'm living a less free life. Okay. Um, uh, Ignorance. I have to be willing to pay the cost of ignorance. Freedom costs me. Uh, I can't allow myself to ignore certain things. Um, this kind of goes back to the acting in, the avoidance, the hiding. In order for me to be present and focused and grounded, uh, I can't I can't be ignorant to the things that are going on inside of me, the things that are going on inside of her, the things that are going on between us, um, the things that God's convicting me of. Uh, because when I live in ignorance, you heard the phrase "ignorance is bliss." It's actually not. It's miserable. Ignorance is miserable. When we choose to be ignorant around things, we think that we are like putting it out of our mind, and we're not even, but it's costing us so much. It's costing us capacity and energy and time. Um, so the cost of freedom is ignorance. Entertainment and leisure. We are a an entertainment obsessed culture. We live in an entertainment obsessed culture. Uh, Leisure is a human right in America. Entertainment is a human right. It's insane how far we've swung on the pendulum there. The idea that we would restrict ourselves from doing things like watching sports, watching movies, watching TVs, consuming social media, being entertained, even reading fiction, y'all. Uh, we have to understand that I might need to give that up to live more free. because if I'm planting my flag there and I'm saying, well, I'll give up everything but my favorite show, then you become a slave to that. You're now bound to that. It's controlling you. And so if that's hitting you in the heart and you're kind of you squirming a little bit and like, oh, but and you're making all these, you're refuting me in your head that why is he saying that freedom's or that entertainment's bad? I'm not saying entertainment's bad. Going back to our definition, what are the right restraints for you in your current the reality of your nature and character? For me, that was a hard thing to give up. But the reality was, um, my character was corroded, and I get obsessed with things, and so I'm not I'm not okay just watching one episode. I'm a classic binge watcher. I want to watch the whole season in one sitting. Um, and then it leads me to this entitlement mentality. Maybe you guys know what I mean here. Like, I deserve to relax. I deserve to check out. I've had a hard day, and I deserve to kick back and watch a show, or to watch the game, whatever it is. But entertainment was uh, something that was keeping me in bondage. I was a slave to it. So in order to live more free, I had to pay the cost. I had to pay the cost there. Even though we have to own our own boundaries, we also have to have enough humility to recognize my best thinking got me here. Jason used to say that to me all the time sitting in his office. Well, I think I should blah, 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 blah. And he'd go, oh, okay. Well, your best thinking got you here into my office, and I'm a sexual addictions counselor. So maybe you need to outsource that for a little while. I'm making him sound like an a-hole. He wasn't. He was very gentle, and he was very gentle with me, which is what I needed. But also direct. Like, if I as the husband are going, well, this is what I think, and these are my boundaries. If I am resistant to letting anyone else speak into that, that's probably because I'm operating in a place of pride, and I think that I know more than I actually know. So getting to a place of humility and going, hey, this is what I think my boundaries should be. What do you think? And whoever the you is, the you could be my wife, it could be my accountability partners, it could be my coach, it could be somebody who can see from the outside perspective. And if they go, yeah, I really think you need to stop watching sports. You spend 5 hours a week watching sports. I think you need to give that up for a while. If I am truly humble and open and want to live in freedom, I might go, okay, like, I don't feel that right now. Like, I don't see that as a problem, but if you see it as a problem, then maybe I'm just blind to it, and I need to own that boundary. Um, so yeah, I think inviting other people to speak into that, it's really a reflection of where your heart's at. All right, let me land the plane here. There's others. Things like fairness. Fairness might be a cost that you have to pay to live in freedom. Spontaneity. How do you spell spontaneity? I got the notes here. Spontaneity. Spontaneity, obviously pride, uh, or being right. Entitlement, and others. There are others, but uh, we gotta reconcile the fact that freedom is not free. Just because I will myself not to act out or act in or medicate doesn't mean that I am not going to do it. I have to boundary myself, and I have to be willing to give up things that may not that other people may not need to give up. Not everybody needs to give up entertainment. I do. Not all entertainment, but most entertainment. Um, because of where I'm at. So I got to live boundaried. I got to make sure that I'm recognizing like I want to live the most free life, and that's going to require me to constrain myself in certain ways. Um, and uh, and I want to follow up on this because this is a I'm talking about paying a lot, paying a cost, um, restricting myself, cutting things out, boundarying myself. Um, that's not because I'm a masochist and I want to just punish myself for the bad things that I've done. Uh, I'm not trying to pay penance for my sins. Um, I think freedom is uh, as I was thinking about this topic. Um, kept coming back to just pictures and parables that Jesus told about the kingdom of heaven. Um, you know, it's like a man who finds a treasure in a field and he goes and he sells everything he has to buy that field. That's what we're talking about. Like, I'm going to go sell everything I have to get something way better. Um, so this is not a tax. It's not a penance. It's not punishment for bad behavior. Um, it's going, I want something so much more for my life. And the kingdom of heaven, the gospel says like, so you gotta let a lot of things go. So that's what we're talking about doing. So I want to follow up on this next week and talk about the benefits of freedom. What does freedom actually look like? Because right now I'm just talking about paying a price, paying a cost. So we'll come back to it next week and uh, talk about what is it that we're buying by paying that cost.